The 2021 F1 season is going on in full swing, but there was some sad news amidst the crazy races. Kimi Raikkonen, better known as the Iceman, was set to retire after this season, but apparently he wasn't really sad about it. In this video, we will cover Raikkonen's thoughts about his retirement, as well as talk about other F1 news that you might have missed. First things first, is Raikkonen happy about his retirement? Raikkonen has 2 races remaining before he leaves his long-term F1 career for good, the last one being on the 12th of December. He has spent about 2 decades in the sport and at the top level, participating in a grand total of 351 Grand Prix, and the number is set to become 353 as this year's season comes to an end. He decided that this was the right time to retire and reunite with his young family back home in Switzerland. One interesting fact is that the 2021 F1 rookie Yuki Tsunoda was barely a year old when Raikkonen first participated in an F1 race, which just tells you how long the Iceman's been in the sport. Ahead of the final 2 races, Kimi Raikkonen was asked to comment on what he thought about the Saudi Arabian and Abu Dhabi Grand Prix being his last ever races. He was taciturn as ever, saying that he had no reason to become emotional about leaving. He further remarked that he is actually looking forward to his retirement and is happy that it's soon over. He believed that there was nothing bad about it and nothing he should be sad over. I think it's good, he noted. Last week, the Finnish motorsports racing driver's career was celebrated by his Alfa Romeo team, along with an exclusive event at their factory in Hinwil, Switzerland. He stated that he didn't have a lot to say about the send-off, but seeing everyone at the event was pleasant. Since it was his last time at the event, he went along with his wife Mintu and his children and gave out a lot of autographs as well as his stay there. It was nice, Raikkonen concluded. About his outlook at his 2 final races considering his retirement, he remarked that it was just another race and they'll try to do their best as they always do. Although the track was new, his approach to his final sign-off will not change. He'll have a lot of fun and pray for some decent results. Well, if there's anyone who knows how to enjoy his races, it is our 2007 world champion, the one and only, the Iceman. We wish the best to Raikkonen. Now, on to other news about the 2021 F1 season. Next up, an update on Formula 2 racers Fittipaldi and Pourchaire's crash. The FIA updated on the condition of the 2 Formula 2 racers, Enzo Fittipaldi and Theo Pourchaire, who were formally rushed to the hospital after a crash they were involved in at the start of the feature race on Sunday in Saudi Arabia. The statement said that Pourchaire was discharged from the hospital in the evening of the same day he was admitted after tests confirmed that there were no issues to be concerned about. However, Fittipaldi spent the night in the ICU of the hospital for observation since he had fractured his right heel and also suffered a lesion on his left eyebrow, but despite this, he was said to be making good progress. Both drivers had already given the good news on their social media handles. Fittipaldi posted that he was thankful that only his heel was broken and he was fine elsewhere save for some cuts and bruises. He continued, "Thank you for all the messages, as well as the FIA and medical staff for taking great care of me. I am very happy that Theo's okay. I'll be back on track soon and faster than ever." On the evening of his discharge, Pourchaire posted that he is globally fine, and although he didn't know if he could continue racing in the season, the crash was very serious, injuring his fellow racer Enzo, who he wished the best recovery. The 2 drivers ran into each other when race 3 began at Jeddah after Pourchaire stalled on the grid. Fittipaldi was not able to keep away from Pourchaire and accidentally slammed into the back of his stationary car. The pair's crash was followed by a lengthy red flag, and therefore the race was shortened to 20 minutes and 1 lap. Oscar Piastri was later awarded the winner of the race and was given half points along with the rest of the top 10. Next, the clashes in between Hamilton and Verstappen show no sign of stopping. We all know that the fight for the F1 title got a little out of hand many times this year, but on Thursday, it looked like things were finally starting to simmer down. Both leaders, Hamilton and Verstappen, seemed in good spirits and very relaxed while moving on to the penultimate or semi-final race of the season, with 8 points separating these 2. But it seemed like the 8 points were not the only thing between them. There was also tons of hostility. The race was anything but calm. Verstappen's aggression made an appearance again for the umpteenth time, which was not surprising, but now it was accompanied by an equal if not more response by the other team. The back and forth fight along with a few antics on the track left a bad impression on the viewers. Although it's understandable that both teams and drivers do their best to gain an advantage, they must also know when to backtrack. Verstappen, however, did not know this, refusing time and time again to cool down and not let the fight get out of control. Viewers are no stranger to these bitter exchanges on and off track between the 2 racers, and hence it was no surprise to them when Hamilton called Verstappen crazy over the radio in the race and called him out for being over the limit in the post-race interviews. Verstappen went on a rant about the number of rules in F1, while the Red Bull team claimed it was being conspired against by the stewards in their rulings. Whichever side you decide to support, it seems like this title fight is only going to get uglier, and it might not even be wrong to accuse the powers in place for not nipping it in the bud sooner. Next up, Esteban Ocon, 10 seconds from the line, finishes 4th place. If you're surprised, think about how disappointed the Alpine driver must have felt. The French racing driver Esteban Ocon lost out on P3 at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix within meters of the finish finish line. This was astonishing considering that Okun had held the position throughout most of the race and seemed to be on track for clutching his second podium of the season following his unexpected win at the Hungarian Grand Prix in August. However, things didn't go as planned because Valtteri Bottas's Mercedes caught up with Okun just in time. It was within the last few seconds that Bottas overtake Okun in the closing lap. Okun was, understandably, speechless and utterly disappointed by the outcome. During his interview, he said it was hard to explain what he was feeling. He insisted that his team gave their best in the race, and they were in third place for the whole race, but the end was really frustrating. He stated that although everyone was in their best condition, they were still in a different league compared to Mercedes. We can't really blame him for thinking so. Now let's move on to what Hamilton spoke out about that enraged many individuals. The greatly celebrated racer Lewis Hamilton once again raised his voice about human rights this past weekend in Saudi Arabia by putting on his pride helmet while celebrating his victory in his second consecutive race. This was a bold move considering the country's stance on the LGBTQ+ community. He confessed that he wasn't entirely comfortable about racing in the kingdom before the weekend because of the country's questionable human rights record, saying that he holds the belief that F1 is morally obliged to raise awareness about certain problems regarding human rights in the countries the races are held in. This is not the first time that Hamilton has spoken out about human rights. In December 2020, Hamilton put Bahrain's human rights abuses in the spotlight, accusing the country of sports washing. Hamilton was written a letter by Ahmad Ramadan, an 11-year-old boy who pleaded for him to rescue his father, who was then on a death penalty row, for a confession that was obtained using torture. Hamilton said he won't let it go unnoticed. German racer Sebastian Vettel agreed with his opinion, putting on trainers embellished with 2 pride flags and also hosting a women-only karting event to know more about women's rights in the country. Other people, though, were not too receptive to his stance. Australian racer Daniel Ricciardo was criticized on social media for calling him out on his ignorance and saying he doesn't watch the news. Although it's sad that only a few drivers speak out on these matters, Hamilton must be lauded for yet again questioning the morals that some countries have in the name of sports. And that's all we have for today. Will you be watching the F1 finale? Let us know in the comments down below. And please leave a like if you enjoyed the video and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Bye.